The last 3 Assassin's Creed games have provided us with 100+ hours of content, and the last 2 games made us feel even less like actual assassins. Don't get me wrong though, they are still fantastic games, and games that I enjoyed very much, but they did turn a lot of the original, those OG fans of the series away. Ubisoft, they recognised that, they addressed it, and they made and released Assassin's Creed Mirage in the hopes to bring back a lot of those original fans. And I have to say that I am extremely happy with the assassin that they have given us this time around. Everyone, meet Basim. Well, it's a much younger version of Basim than we met in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, a master thief turned assassin. In Mirage, we follow the journey of Basim, who after doing some small paid thieving jobs for the Hidden Ones, is put into a situation where he has to flee Baghdad, and he does so with the help of his future mentor, who takes Basim back to where they train recruits into badass assassins. After a small section of gameplay where we go from thief to assassin, Basim then heads back to Baghdad to essentially do what we do in every other Assassin's Creed game. We kill a bunch of baddies that are trying to take control in some way or another. Basim is a kind, witty, and very passionate member of the Hidden Ones, and probably the most dedicated to the Creed that we have ever seen. His main focus is to literally just be an assassin and do whatever he is bid. No revenge story, no other motives like money or greed, just pure and simple passion for the craft, and that's what I love about him. Other than our mentor Roshan, who is a badass and a great character in her own right, the supporting cast, though well voiced and acted, is somewhat forgettable. There is no awesome like Leonardo da Vinci type sidekick, and I really do think that that is something that we are missing. The main campaign alone takes about 15 to 18 hours to complete, and it flows really well. Because the map is small and compact compared to the last 3 games, there's no like huge gap between missions, no 300-meter run or donkey ride or horse ride to the next spot. In these bigger games, you'd be doing what seems to be a really important, almost time-sensitive mission, and then you'd get stuck doing 4 side missions, you'd be fighting a crocodile, swimming to a sunken ship to get some treasure. But in Assassin's Creed Mirage, you just go from mission to mission, and like I said before, it flows really, really well. Best of all, there are none of those really annoying Animus missions. You know, the ones where you like run around as that modern assassin that's in the Animus? I always really hated those. It was good when you were Desmond, but everything else after that just felt sort of like just added garbage that really took us out of the game. This is one of the first Assassin's Creed games where stealth is the majority of the gameplay. It actually makes you feel like an assassin. A good handful of the missions have a few different ways you can actually kill your target or infiltrate the building to steal the object, and I really appreciated stealth being the main focus of the gameplay. The gadgets you use remind me of the older Assassin's Creed games, sleep darts, smoke grenades, and thieving knives to name a few. They are mainly geared towards stealth and to avoid enemies instead of making the combat easier. So yes, they have made the stealth much easier and more of a focus, but it does seem that in order to make that possible, they really had to dumb the guards down about 90%, and it is very noticeable and sometimes pretty embarrassing. It really seems like all the guards are wearing AirPods and they just can't hear what is going on. I'll be in combat with a guard, and just in the next room, only separated by an open door, will be another guard who doesn't come storming in to help. He just stands there like he can't hear it whatsoever. It's the same with height. I'll be in a fight with 2 guards on the roof, swords are clashing, we're shouting, die, die! And the guards on the lower floors don't seem to react at all. And one of the worst offenses in the stealth is, for some reason, when Basim kills enemies on the roof, he lets their bodies fall forward, which causes them to fall in front of the guards below. That would be devastating in most Assassin's Creed games, but half the time the below guards don't seem to care that someone has almost fallen on their head. It's weird and very noticeable how unhuman-like the guards are, and you know, while it does make you feel like an absolute badass when you clear a whole enemy base, they really need to fix the AI going forward. Being a badass stealthy assassin is great because it lets you avoid the pretty average combat system that is in place. There is a light attack, a charged heavy attack, a dodge, and a parry. That is pretty much it. You get to unlock some extra abilities that make the combat flow a bit better, but overall it feels very clunky, and I found myself trying to avoid it at all costs. I feel like the developers of this game either didn't play the original Assassin's Creed games or forgot how well the combat movement felt. An example of this is when you would perform a finisher or parry kill in the previous games, the other enemies in the combat would stand back and look around like in panic or shock, like they were about to run away, whereas now they attack you mid-kill animation, and that's while you're invulnerable. So instead of actually doing damage, they sort of just swing through your body and miss you completely. It's really awkward, and it happened to me very consistently. Also, there is only a sword and dagger combo. Gone is the ability to have axes or maces or the large weapons. I wish that was still an option, but they really stripped back the combat to the bare minimum. There is a new ability called Assassin Focus, which is sort of like Deadeye in the Red Dead games, where you target enemies and assassinate them in a sequence. I barely used it, but I've seen some really cool footage online on how you can utilize it, so it is a plus. As I mentioned, there are 3 pretty small skill trees. They vary from adding extra health potions and equipment to making your bird who scouts see things easier, and while there isn't heaps of options or crazy new abilities, it does feel like each unlock has a purpose and is something that is helpful and wanted. Each gadget also has its own small skill tree, which allows quite a bit of customization and uniqueness to everyone's gameplay. With the throwing knives, for example, tier 1 will allow you to carry more or add power to each knife, whereas tier 3 has the ability to allow enemies killed with the knives to disintegrate, so their bodies just disappear. I went a bit basic and just went more power with my gadgets, but there's lots of room to become very creative. A feature that has been brought back is the notoriety system. If you perform a murder, civilians or other guards will notice you and they'll recognize you. It makes the city feel more alive, and it allows you to once again rip down those posters or bribe the public speakers to stop talking about you, which brings me to one of the newer features in the game, the new types of currency. You have your basic coins, which are used to refill your gadgets, but then you have a series of rare coins that, as I mentioned, are used to bribe the public speakers or hire mercenaries to fight by your side, and even in some circumstances you can use them during missions to help get information about your targets. The thing about this new currency is you actually acquire them by, doing the contracts, opening chests around the cities, but by best of all, pickpocketing civilians. I always felt that pickpocketing in other games felt sort of useless, but now it is actually a very important part of the game and a great way to stay stocked with this new form of currency. It never got tiresome to pickpocket, and I really enjoyed that Basim was able to keep this skill that he had before he was an assassin. Another skill he had before becoming an assassin was the ability to climb and parkour from point A to point B. I honestly had very few issues with the free running in this game. I know there has been a bit of hate online about it, and yeah, at time it felt clunky or I would do something that I didn't want to do, but that was probably a skill error, to be honest, and it does feel that way in every Assassin's Creed game. I actually enjoyed that most of the city is quite low and it doesn't take ages to climb to the rooftops. Everything is super accessible and nothing was frustrating to climb, so I was quite happy with how that played out. It also helps that Baghdad is a beautiful city. It feels very lived in, and there is a mixture of dull sandy areas and vibrant colourful areas scattered with lovely buildings and plant life. Occasionally you would hear traditional music in the distance, and I actually wish there was more of that sort of vibe, more of markets, more hustle and bustle, but overall the map is a joy to explore. With all of that in mind, Assassin's Creed Mirage is still a game I would recommend to the fans of the franchise. There are negatives here with the combat and the dumb guards, but there is a lot to love with the main character, the stealth, the city, and the gadgets themselves. I'm glad I purchased it, and I'm glad I played it, and I finished the game with a good feeling overall. Before I give this game a rating, I just want to say that this is my very first video on this channel, so please, any feedback, let me know. Any subscriptions would be appreciated as well. Give us a like, leave a comment. What's your favorite Assassin's Creed game in the comment below? I give this game a 7.5 out of 10.